Good morning, welcome to this morning's outlook. Let's start off looking firstly at the fundamentals that might affect our trading today. There's not a great deal here, just look, there's the personal consumption expenditure. It is a very key figure, without any doubt whatsoever. It's looking at effectively an inflation figure, and it's the main one that the Fed use when looking at inflation. So that's at 130. So we've just got to be watching that quite carefully. Aside of that, really, well, we've already seen the Tokyo core inflation coming out there. There's not a great deal here, G20 meetings, etc. Nothing else really to be looking at. So let's look at the technicals, and the euro hasn't yet come down to that 50-day moving average on here. I did trail my stop really tight on the euro yesterday. It looked like it was up to no good, and it was. It has effectively on this 4-hourly time frame put a little higher low in. It's very not so easy to see. You can just about make it out on this 15-minute chart. I should change this to an hourly. That's right, I was fiddling around looking at things yesterday. You see it's just switched around there. Now I'd moved my stop down quite aggressively. As I said, I got stopped out just around about this level here, 108.47 on the short there, but it's starting to look a bit iffy, and we'd literally gone back down. It wasn't quite double bottom, but it was to the bottom of the bodies of the candles there, hence why I moved it down so aggressively. Anyway, that's done for now. Could still roll over the euro, but it could just as easily run into a chop zone. As I always say with moving averages, they're often a diminishing target, but well, this one hasn't actually diminished too much. You can see it's moving away a little bit at the moment, but the price action has slowed up now. I want to be in the fast price action. As for now, as I say, today is a bit iffy. Because if it breaks the daily pivot, yep, sure, it could be back on towards those lows. Yes, one's just below, but there is that potential. We could just end up in chop. There's no significant news until later. Maybe this afternoon we'll see something a bit more action. The pound. So the pound came off yesterday. There's this belief now that interest rates will be cut. And the next meeting is 50% chance, 50-50 chance. Pound is sliding its way down there at this stage. Put the lower highs in. It's looking the weaker of the two as we go through. Yesterday, as I say, it just broke down there. And looking a bit soft. Maybe if we get a move into the daily pivot this morning, it could set us up on the short side, so I will watch for that. Okay, so there's the potential there. Dollar yen, well, it caught a bounce yesterday in the short term, but the bigger picture still southbound. But again, as I said, with the on my system, I just edged a stop down on here. Just brought down quite aggressively in the end. I got a 3-to-1 out of the overall return, round about just fractionally short, but it was doing things like popping a divergence in there. If it broke the high there, well, it's effectively triggered the divergence, which it has gone up there, ran up, hit the daily pivot. Bit questionable now. Again, if it starts breaking below the daily pivot, today's daily pivot, it could be on for continuation of the short side of things. Alternatively, and this is, I'll leave this alone, but alternatively, if it starts breaking the highs, near-term highs here, it could be seeing a little bit more of a bounce, but we'll see. There's always opportunities, but it has slowed up a little bit to how it was coming down. So out of my positions there for now. Aussie dollar, we're seeing a bounce on this morning. Yesterday it obviously already came off quite a long way. today, well, it's starting to see a little bounce. It's not much. It's through its daily pivot though. Again, if it starts a continuation with a bit more oomph, breaking back below the daily pivot, it could be on for a bit of a continuation. It has done this little A, B, C. It hasn't managed to break this prior high yet, so structurally it's still pretty much in the downward trend, solidly into the downward trend until it breaks that level there. So really needs to break above its hourly 50 if you're looking at the 50 moving average. So US dollar CAD, well, pushing up solidly. On dailies, it's again, there's signs of possible change here, and it's an inverted picture of everything else we're looking at effectively. So a break back above the highs there suggests it will continue back up there, maybe above the pivot, but it's finding a bit of support on its 50 MA, hand railing it at the moment. If it starts breaking from that, well, it could strengthen a little bit more against the US dollar here. So a bit of patience needed again this morning, but we've seen a busy old week, and sometimes you just instead of actually everything going completely the other way, I mean, it might just get a bit of a retracement, a smaller retracement and consolidation. Looking at the New Zealand dollar here, again, it's just really following that same pattern here. It's solid out. I mean, we need some retracements on some of these to get a potential decent move in with this original trend. It's just come down beautifully, but not necessarily easy to get into. Like the yen was so much easier, the euro was easier to get into. These are quite difficult. They go very early in the mornings often. This is flat lined through its normal session, so it's not done what it's done in previous mornings, but it's sold off quite strongly, which in itself you might want to start questioning. It might just get back up to its daily pivot and start reacting off that again. We saw it yesterday. It had come off earlier. It pipped up there about 9 o'clock. It was 9 o'clock, around about 9 o'clock on the 9 o'clock bar, and then failed again. So that's what we'll look for on that. Other pairs of Swissy are starting to lose ground a little bit here. It was doing pretty well against the dollar. This is dollar Swissy, so just in case you're wondering why I'm saying the Swissy's gaining. Well, it has put another lower high in there and a lower low, so it is looking like it's strengthening here, but it's what it does from where it is, and it's trying to get back above the pivot there. Now again, target or entry wise for strengthening Swissy would be a break of this. There's a quarterly pivot, this big blue pivot across here. That quarterly pivot might just be a sort of a signal it's got more downside to come there, but otherwise again, it might be starting to move the other way. I just don't like the trend on it at the moment, because of course the bigger trends are down there, so it just means it's probably a morning without much in the way of trends, unless some of these get this sort of retrace of that. I think the pound's about the best opportunity, so if we're looking at what's the best today, really potentially this pound, if it gets back up into its pivot, it could of course just roll over, but I would prefer it to get into that pivot and sell into the pivot. Okay, or I say into the pivot, or on a reaction to the pivot. Right, there's the majors. Let's just quickly switch into look at gold and the indices. They're all seeing a bit of a bounce this morning. Start off with gold, so it's just again catching just a little bit of a movement. Sometimes you get these sort of dead cat bounces, or whatever you like to call them, where you've had such a sell-off, get a bit more of a upward bit of price action, and then it's a real test to see if we get a continuation to the downside. Gold here just looking iffy. Again, we saw yesterday it consolidate until later morning there into the afternoon, and then it started breaking down a little bit, but it slowed up relative to previous sessions. see what it does today. At the moment it's still very much in this intermediate downward trend, kicking through here. Question is it going to break back below the daily 200? Yellow on here. Is it going to break back below that sort of level and continue to the southbound? Oil, there we go. So yesterday just catching that switch back. Just looking a little bit more positive now. This is structurally changing. It did put a higher low in around this area here, so it's structurally changing. So we're seeing a bit of a structural change here on oil after quite a soft old week for it. It really has come off strong, but it's already made around about 2/3 of that sell-off that we've seen since Monday, not the Friday bit, but since Monday it's pulled back 2/3 of that, which we could just see it continue pushing up here this morning or today. S&Ps struggling somewhat, bit of a rally, only to roll over in the second half of the session. This is looking at the moment like it's got potential for a continuation to the downside here. Let's just look at the dailies here. So firstly, support was coming from the monthly pivot. It came back, hit it yesterday. It's well, it did actually close below it, but bouncing a little at the moment. So it didn't move on a great deal from what I was looking at, but enough. Excuse me, enough just to push on through a little. But as I said, it's short term here. It could just rock and roll that bit further and carry on to that downside. Just testing at the moment. Nasdaq again, solid sell-off because of these. I mean, I was just reading some notes on my news service there, and they quite rightly pointed out that a lot of all these rallies, okay, this is the tech indices, but a lot of the rallies on the S&Ps, etc., were driven by the technical stocks. Now, if they're going to start seeing a bit of a sell-off here, it could everything could catch a bit of a cold, and we could see a bigger rollover. Certainly, this is looking soft here. The earlier part of the week there into the pivot, and well, it's been coming off since, looking quite soft. And again here, it's just into its daily pivot. We could get a continuation as we run through S&Ps. That was the S&Ps. The Dow working slightly different, a little bit more positive in the shorter time frame here. It's above its pivot as opposed to below. So the easier sell options would be really potentially on the S&Ps and the Nasdaq there, both sitting on their pivots or around their pivots. Morning, DJ. Okay, that's pretty much it for me this morning. It's Friday. Let's have a look at what Bitcoin's up to, as I know a lot of people get bored over the weekend and seen a bit of a rally going on here. And it's looking quite solid at the moment in terms of its price action. Yesterday coming up reversal, just seeing continuation. The week as a whole's not been massively good, but it's picked up yesterday into today at the moment, so looking a bit more positive for the weekend potentially. So we'll probably get the fanboys out there piping up about the next rally and the next break of 72,000 and above. Let's see. Anyway, I'll leave you with that thought, and I'll catch you next week. Take care. Bye for now.